Don't throw away cardboard and dry leaves. Do this instead. Right now, underneath every square foot of garden soil, there are roughly 20,000 dormant weed seeds just waiting to sprout. And here's the shocking part. Every single time you dig, you wake them up. For decades, gardeners have been told that hard work equals great results. Dig deeper, till more, pull every weed by hand. But what if that advice has been dead wrong? There is a method that requires zero digging, almost zero weeding, and it starts with two things most people throw in the trash: a cardboard box and a pile of dry leaves. It is called lasagna gardening, also known as sheet mulching. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to turn those waste materials into the richest, most productive garden bed you have ever grown. But first, you need to understand why the way most of us have been gardening actually works against us. 1. The Great Gardening Illusion. Why digging is the wrong battle. Here is something that surprises even experienced gardeners. Every time a rototiller or shovel cuts into the earth, it destroys an invisible network that took years to build. Beneath the surface, billions of fungal threads connect plant roots to nutrients. Beneficial bacteria break down minerals into forms that roots can actually absorb. Earthworm tunnels act as highways for water and oxygen. This entire underground system, scientists call it the soil food web, keeps plants fed, hydrated, and disease-resistant. Tilling shreds those fungal threads. It collapses the tiny air pockets that roots need to breathe. And it does something even worse. Remember those 20,000 dormant seeds? Many of them have been buried in darkness for 10, 20, even 50 years. They cannot sprout without sunlight. But the moment a shovel flips them to the surface, they get exactly what they need: light and oxygen. Within days, they explode into life. So the very act of preparing a garden bed the traditional way actually plants the next generation of weeds. That is the illusion. All that backbreaking effort does not solve the weed problem. It creates it. But nature solved this puzzle a long time ago, and the answer has been hiding in plain sight. 2. Nature's blueprint. What the forest floor already knows. Nobody tills a forest. Nobody fertilizes it. Yet forest soil is some of the richest, darkest, most fertile ground on Earth. How? Dr. Elaine Ingham, one of the world's leading soil microbiologists, spent decades studying this exact question. Her research confirmed something remarkable. Nature builds soil from the top down, not by digging from the bottom up. Every autumn, leaves fall. Twigs snap off. Plants die back. Layer after layer of organic material settles on the ground. And underneath that blanket, an army of earthworms, fungi, and bacteria goes to work, eating, digesting, and converting dead plant matter into dark, crumbly humus. No machine, no chemicals, just gravity, time, and biology. Lasagna gardening copies this exact process. Instead of fighting the soil with tools, you stack layers of natural materials on top of the ground and let the underground workforce do the rest. You feed the soil feeds the plants feed you. And it all starts with the most unlikely garden tool you will ever use. 3. The magic of cardboard, your shield and foundation. That cardboard box sitting in your garage right now, it is about to become the foundation of your entire garden bed. And it does something no amount of digging can do. It kills weeds without disturbing a single seed. Here is how it works. Mow the grass or weeds as short as possible. Then lay flattened sheets of cardboard directly on top. The cardboard blocks all sunlight. Without light, the plants beneath it cannot photosynthesize. They burn through their energy reserves and die quietly, decomposing right in place and adding organic matter to the soil. No digging, no herbicides, no weed seeds brought to the surface. But there are 3 mistakes that can ruin this step, and most beginners make at least one of them. Mistake number 1, using the wrong cardboard. Glossy, brightly colored or plastic-coated boxes can leach microplastics and heavy metals into the soil. Stick to plain brown or unprinted cardboard. Remove all tape and staples before laying it down. Mistake number 2. Not overlapping enough. Weeds are relentless. If there is even a half-inch gap between 2 sheets of cardboard, a weed will find it and push through. Overlap every edge by at least 6 to 8 inches. Think of it like shingling a roof. No cracks, no gaps. And mistake number 3. This is the one almost nobody talks about. Laying the cardboard down dry. Dry cardboard is hydrophobic. It repels water like a raincoat, shedding moisture away from the soil beneath it. That starves the very organisms you are trying to attract. The fix is simple. Soak every sheet of cardboard thoroughly with a hose as you lay it down. Wet cardboard softens, molds to the ground, and becomes an irresistible feast for earthworms. They rise from the deeper soil to consume it, tunneling through the earth and naturally aerating your new bed as they go. Once your wet cardboard shield is in place, the real artistry begins. And this next step is where most people either get it exactly right or create a smelly, rotting disaster. 4. The alchemy of layering, browns and greens. Every experienced composter knows these 2 words, browns and greens. But even seasoned gardeners get the balance wrong, and the consequences can be dramatic. Browns are carbon-rich materials. Dry autumn leaves are the classic example. Straw, shredded newspaper, pine needles, and small twigs also count. Carbon is the energy source that powers decomposition. Greens are nitrogen-rich materials. Fresh grass clippings, coffee grounds, tea bags, and vegetable scraps from the kitchen. Nitrogen is the accelerator. It wakes up the bacteria and fungi that do the actual work of breaking things down. Stack them in alternating layers on top of your wet cardboard. A few inches of browns, then a thinner layer of greens, a light sprinkle of water, then more browns. Keep building. Aim for a total height of 18 to 24 inches. That sounds like a lot, but it will shrink by more than half as the organisms consume it. Now, here is the mistake that catches people off guard. If you throw whole, flat leaves, especially large ones like maple or oak, onto the pile without shredding them first, they will mat together into a wet, slimy sheet. That sheet blocks air. Without air, aerobic bacteria die off and anaerobic bacteria take over. The result is a foul-smelling, soggy mess instead of rich compost. The prevention is easy. Run a lawnmower over the leaves before adding them. Shredded leaves have far more surface area, decompose faster, and allow air and water to flow through the pile. For the ratio, aim for roughly 2 to 4 parts brown materials to every 1 part green. Too much green, and the pile turns slimy and smells like ammonia. Too much brown, and decomposition stalls for months. Get the balance right, and something extraordinary happens beneath those layers. Mesophilic bacteria and saprophytic fungi, microscopic decomposers, multiply by the millions. They devour the organic matter and convert it into dark, crumbly, sweet-smelling humus. The kind of soil gardeners spend years trying to buy in bags. Except you built it for free, with scraps and leaves that were heading to the landfill. There is just one more ingredient this process needs, and it is the hardest one for most of us to provide. 5. The cooking process and the gift of patience. Lasagna gardening is a cold composting method. Unlike a traditional hot compost pile that can reach temperatures above 140 degrees Fahrenheit, this process works slowly, at ambient temperature. That means it needs time. The ideal window to build a lasagna bed is autumn. Lay your cardboard, stack your layers, and then step back. Let the winter do the work. Beneath the frost, earthworms and fungi keep processing the material throughout the cold months. How long does it take? In most climates, a bed built in October or November will be ready to plant by mid to late spring. That is roughly 5 to 7 months. The cardboard will have broken down into soft, brown fragments. The leaves will have transformed into something barely recognizable, dark, crumbly, and earthy. How do you know it is ready? Push your hand into the bed. If it sinks in easily and comes out smelling clean, like a forest floor after rain, the bed is ready. If you still feel distinct layers or hit intact cardboard, give it another few weeks. For those who do not want to wait a full winter, there is a shortcut, and it brings us to the most rewarding part of this entire process. 6. Planting the future, a harvest of joy. When spring arrives and the frost danger has passed, walk out to your lasagna bed. What was once a towering pile of rough material will have settled into a soft, dark, loamy surface. You will not need a shovel. Your bare hands can part the soil. If the bed is not fully decomposed yet, or if you built it in spring and want to plant right away, simply add a 4 to 6 inch layer of finished compost or quality topsoil directly on top. Plant your seeds or transplants into that top layer. For the first year, stick with shallow-rooted crops, lettuce, spinach, radishes, herbs, and annual flowers like marigolds or zinnias. Their roots will explore the decomposing layers beneath without needing deep, finished soil. By the second season, the entire bed will have transformed into a unified, rich, growing medium, perfect for deep-rooted crops like carrots and heavy feeders like tomatoes, peppers, and squash. And here is what makes the ongoing experience so different from traditional gardening. Because the layered material acts like a sponge, the bed holds moisture far longer. Watering frequency drops significantly. Because no soil was ever turned, the weed seed bank stays buried and dormant. Weekend hours that used to go to pulling weeds now go to actually enjoying the garden. Healthier soil means healthier plants. Healthier plants mean fewer pest problems and less disease. The entire system reinforces itself, and it all started with a cardboard box and a pile of leaves. Conclusion: a cardboard box from the recycling bin, a bag of dry leaves from the curb, two things that most people throw away without a second thought. But layered together with a little patience, they become the foundation of a garden that practically builds itself. No heavy digging, no aching back, no losing the war against weeds. Just a simple method borrowed directly from the way nature has been building soil for millions of years. The most rewarding gardens are not built by force. They are built by working with the earth instead of against it. And that is a lesson worth carrying far beyond the garden fence. If this video gave you a new way to look at that stack of cardboard in your garage, hit the subscribe button and share it with a friend who loves to garden. Drop a comment below. What is the first thing you plan to grow in your lasagna bed?